You may have heard the example of the frog who gets boiled to death. How does the frog get boiled to death? How come the frog doesn't just jump right out of the water and save itself? Well, the reason is because when the frog was put in the water, it wasn't boiling, it was comfortable. And the water slowly, gradually became warmer and warmer until it was too warm for the frog. And that happened so slowly and so gradually that the frog did not realize that transition from the water being comfortable to a little warmer, hot, boiling, dead. I might ask the frog, well, if it was so bad, like you're saying, that it threatened your life, why did you stay so long? Well, the frog stayed so long because they didn't know they were in any danger. They didn't realize they were in a toxic environment. They didn't realize it because the change happened gradually and strategically over time in order to catch and keep the frog. So some of you out there might relate to this frog. So if you woke up one day and realize you don't have any ties with your family, the friends you had, the person you really have is your partner and the children you have with your partner. You may find that you don't even have access to money. You may not have access to all of your own accounts or even know the PIN numbers. You might be in a situation where you have to ask permission to make purchases. If you're in the grocery store, you don't have the right to pick something off the shelf and say, I'm gonna have this. The money is not meant to feel like it's yours also. And this is not to say that it isn't a 2-income salary. You could be working and earning your own money, and it goes into an account that you don't even really have access to. How does this happen? It's like the frog. You didn't realize the situation you were in was toxic. And at first, it was everything you ever dreamed of. All of your likes and dislikes, all of your values, all of your goals were mirrored to you, so you felt like you were meeting the match of a lifetime. Once the deal is sealed, like you're married, or you move in together, or you have a child together, the behavior starts to change. And that person you met in the beginning is gone forever. But you remember them fondly, and you wait for that person to come back. And sometimes you do catch glimpses of that person if the need be. I'm gonna guess that you came from a family where your say mattered very little. Things that were important to you were not important to the whole. So when you met somebody and they would pick you up at work, you loved the attention. You felt like they really cared about you and really wanted to spend every second they could with you. But that wasn't really what was happening. They were picking you up and dropping you off and being there all the time so that you couldn't connect with anyone but them. Anytime you bumped into someone else while you were with them, that person would get the cold shoulder and get the feeling that they have to keep moving and not stick around too long because they're not welcomed. And you don't want to upset the person you're with. You want to be loyal to them, and so you watch these friendships slip away. It's normal for couples to check in with each other. So how's your day going? How was that meeting you were worried about? What'd you eat for lunch? Did you forget your lunch? It's normal for people to check in with each other. But the thing you always want to question is, what is the intention with the checking in? Is it checking up on you to make sure you're doing well? Or is it checking up on you to make sure you're not doing anything they don't like? And why do you have to act in a way that they like? One example I have is I was in a lunchroom at work, and I was sitting at a lunch table and talking to people and having a nice time, and I hadn't checked my phone. So the person was looking for me to check in, which wasn't unusual that we check in at lunchtime, but I never thought of it as something that had to happen. And because I wasn't responding to texts, because I was sitting and eating lunch with coworkers, they decided to use the Find My Phone feature where it sounds an alarm. And so my phone began to sound an alarm in the lunchroom where conversation stopped for everyone at work, and it came to everyone saying, oh, okay, I guess he couldn't reach me, so he sounded an alarm. And I didn't really think anything of it because probably was already used to it at this point. But people were whispering that, oh my God, it sounded an alarm because she wouldn't answer her text messages. And I just felt, in the moment, I felt like they got it wrong. But 15 years later, you look back and you're like, no, I was missing some red flags there. It's normal for couples to check in on each other, and it's normal to get worried when you don't hear back. But you really do want to keep an eye on what the person's intention is when they keep track of you to this degree. Another way people will keep track of you is by putting tags on your keychain or in your wallet. So they might say, just in case you lose your keys, here, I got this for you. Or it might be, you never know, you might lose your wallet. Here, I got this for you, put it in your wallet. And you, in the moment, you feel like, oh, that's so nice, so thoughtful, that if I ever lost my wallet, I could just track it. If I ever lost my keys, I could just track it. How nice. But that's a lot of tracking. Is it a trust issue? Is it a protection issue? Really get to the bottom of it, because many years went by and I never questioned this. In fact, I felt, oh, how nice it is to have someone look out for me and be protective of me. And when you don't grow up in a family structure where people are looking out for you and people are protecting you and people love you, you don't really know what that feels like and what it looks like. So people recognize that in you. They recognize these handicaps and this kind of emotional gap that's going on with you. And predators will prey on people who are dumb looking, who just don't seem to know how evil the world is. They can recognize you and they're going to prey on you. So when you're thinking, oh, wow, I found someone who really looks out for me, they're really protective, they care for me, oh, it feels so nice. That's not what's happening, and you don't know that because you were never loved. What's happening is you are a possession to them. They're making sure that you don't slip away from them. And another reason why so much time can pass before you even realize it is because, remember, you don't really have any friends or family anymore, if you ever did. So because you don't have anyone who cares about you to say, hey, why do you have so many trackers on you? What's going on? That's a little odd. You don't really have anyone to give you that kind of feedback, so you don't know. A toxic situation becomes very normal for you. It just becomes a way of life until that water gets too hot. And you're not happy, and you don't know why you're not happy, because everything looks picture perfect over here, doesn't it? So if you come from a toxic family dynamic where you were the family scapegoat, the abuse, the neglect, and the abandonment that you experienced really set you up to be a great candidate for a husband who wants to exploit your lack of understanding of love and healthy relationships. These kind of relationships become so confusing because although this person doesn't like you, they like having you. Once they replace everyone in your life, they may replace those people with a handful of people who are similar to them, who, if they recognize what's going on in this home, they won't say anything, they won't speak out. In fact, they're here for the fun too. Okay, so growing up with poor treatment caused you to accept poor treatment as normal, but as normal as you think it is, the day does come where you're drowning in this, where your life feels like a prison and you can't really articulate it. Anyone in your life who knows this person loves them. They're charming, they're wonderful, they're helpful, they're kind. If anything, you're kind of painted in a light where you're not so nice. These are people, when company comes over, they get really busy and really helpful, and everyone will praise them. Wow, so wonderful. Oh, good. Look at, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. You're so lucky to have this person. They don't know what it's like when they're not there. This person is a different person when people are around as opposed to when people aren't around. But it doesn't matter, because if you stay in a toxic situation for 15 years, who's going to believe you? You stayed so long, it seemed really nice, you were the most loyal person to them, you made excuses for anything they said or did, you covered up for them, you've developed this kind of Stockholm syndrome where you cover for the person that's hurting you. Depending on your upbringing, leaving a marriage might be devastating for you. You might feel like an immense failure to break up a family if you're the only person who has a problem with it. Everyone's fine, everyone's getting along, everyone's healthy, except for you. Your dissatisfaction becomes a story about your mental health, Well, you better go to the doctor. Well, you better get medication. Well, you better talk to someone. Something. It's just all the ownership of any sadness you're feeling is all put on you and your mental health. Well, if you're not happy, you must be crazy. Go get some help. And the kind of friends they kept in your life are going to support them in this kind of thinking. You're really going to feel alone. In some cases, they may even turn the children against you in whatever way they can. I can remember one time, so this was another woman who was my friend, but in an argument, he called my friend, had her team up with him against me. And this is where the toxic person will gaslight you and surround you with the kind of people who will help them gaslight you. So you just feel crazy. Everyone's fine. Everyone's happy. No one has a problem. Just always you. Something's wrong. But something's wrong. You know it. You know it in your heart. You know it in your whole body. Every time you wake up, there's this feeling. You just can't articulate it. And there's no one to really talk to about it. These are going to be charming people, educated, smart, attractive. Helpful is the number one thing. Very helpful to everyone around them. So when push comes to shove and someone says, I'm being abused, the people around will say, well, you might be crazy because he's so nice. He's so kind. He's always helpful. He's always been there. And I see what he does for you. He does this for you. He does that for you. You're ungrateful. You might have mental health issues that you need to sort out. My advice is that if you become sure with beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're dealing with a person who's toxic and doesn't have your best interest in mind, who is gaslighting you and allowing your pain to grow when the power is within them to stop your pain. If you can recognize that that's what you're going through, chances are you don't have any help. You're on your own. By the time you realize you're in danger, there's no one there to help you. You're in a pot of hot water. The first thing you want to do is get yourself a job if you don't have one already. Get yourself some income. You can't get an apartment, you can't buy another little home, you can't start over without your own income. Get your own job that you control. It goes into an account where you have a card, you have a PIN number, and you can control it. You might have to lie. These are situations they're not going to like letting you into. If you're already working and your money goes straight into a joint account, where they manage the funds and they pay the bills, find some way to get access, get PIN numbers for that. You're gonna have to be very careful about how you get out of the situation, because if they figure out you're planning to leave, they might start a smear campaign. They're gonna try to hurt your credibility in front of anyone who could help you. The only way I know how to win against toxic people is by not reacting to their attempts to crazy make. They want you to behave badly. They want that the smear campaign they have going or have prepared for you will be believable. So they need to make you crazy, drive you a little bit nuts so that you can react, cry, throw something, get angry, call them a name, and then they're gonna say, you are not a nice person. And that's their win. They likely hated you from the moment they met you. They hated that you were a good person. They hated that you cared. They didn't have access to any of these emotions within themselves. They hated you for it, and they broke you down. What hurts so much is not only were they the person who sabotaged the friendships, but they were also the person whose shoulder you cried on when you lost those friendships. So that's the messed up thing, is the person who was your number one protector and support, and the person you went to bed with, the person you were loyal to, they were also the person who hated you the most. They were the person who hurt you the most. They chose you for this reason because they knew that they can get away with this behavior. So now you're a good bit older and you probably have kids. And you're starting over. This is not a bad thing, friends. You are so much smarter than you were when you went into it. And if you didn't have this experience, you wouldn't be who you are. So now you've got a head full of useful information that you didn't have when you first teamed up with a person and started a family. Leaving the situation isn't a failure to your children. it's coming through for your children. And they're with you. They're going to have something healthy, stable, safe, solid. You are not failing your family. You are protecting your family. Maybe your parents taught you to be a servant, and that made you a great wife for this kind of toxic partnership. You could unlearn this and teach your children something different. My name is Ruth Ann, and this is Brain War. Thanks for watching.